So rule number 2 in listening is that you need to have an opening question. It's very, very important that you know how you're going to start your sales interaction, your interaction with the prospect. And typically when you sit down to meet with someone, or whatever form your presentation is taking, you need to understand that, especially in network marketing, that your prospect in many cases will be curious. They want to know why you want to meet with them. Maybe they have an idea, maybe they don't. In many cases they don't have a very specific idea as to why you're meeting with them. So they have a curiosity. And what tends to happen when people get together, especially people that know each other, that are friendly together, there usually will be some kind of small talk, some kind of rapport building that's very natural. Hey, how are you? It's been a while since I've seen you. How's the family? It's been a tough winter. It's been an easy winter. Whatever kind of talk goes on, and eventually, usually, what happens in a case like that is there usually is some kind of what I call it a pregnant pause. And there's kind of a place where in a presentation, in a sales call, in talking to someone, sharing with them your opportunity or your product, where it will typically go from hey, how's the weather? How's the family? How's the kids? How's snowboarding this year? Did you go to Vail this year? Da 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 da. And then there's a pause, like, should we get into what you came to talk to me about? And in many cases, what will happen is the prospect may actually jump forward in where this pregnant pause is, and they may say, so what is it you wanted to talk to me about? Or what's this all about? Or what's all the secrecy about? Or what are you into? What's this new business that you're in? Now, that's fine if they take the initiative to ask you what it's about. That's okay. In many cases, I would suggest that you'll have a little more control if, when the pregnant pause happens, remember, the pregnant pause is kind of when everybody knows in the conversation that we should now shift to the business. It's time to get off of the personal discussion and get to business. Very, very common. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. It's making that shift or that segue into, okay, let's talk business. My preference would be here that you have an opening question and that you're ready to ask that opening question, and that you know what that opening question is. And so what I might say is something like, as you hit the pregnant pause, as you reach that point where the conversation will shift, you then say something like, hey, listen, Bob, really appreciate you meeting with me. Thanks for agreeing to meet with me. Let me talk about or get into what I wanted to talk to you about. And before I actually get into it, can I ask you a question? Now, can I ask you a question is a very critical question that you'll need to learn how to ask. It is a very powerful way to lead someone in getting a response from them and to leading them to where you want to go. In North America, if you say to someone, can I ask you a question? I will guarantee you that 99% of all North Americans will say, sure. They'll say it like, absolutely, you can ask me a question. Now, why are questions so powerful? Why is it when I say to somebody, can I ask you a question? If I say to someone, can I ask you a question? They instantly say, sure. And you literally get control of any conversation. So even if my prospect at the pregnant pause said to me, okay, hey MJ, what is it you wanted to talk about? What's going on here? What's all the secrecy? Why are we meeting at Starbucks, and why do you have this portfolio? We've been friends for a long time. Why are you going to show this to me? And I'd say, hey, I'm happy to answer that. Would love to answer it. and I'm going to answer it for sure. Before I do, can I ask you a question, Bob? 99% of the time, Bob will say, of course you can ask me a question. What's the question? Now, let's have a little discussion about why questions are so powerful. In our country, in America, and I think also in Canada, our entire educational system is built upon answering questions and answering them correctly. In American schools, you are taught that if you answer a question correctly, what happens to you? You get a gold star. You get a good grade. You get an A. You get to go to good school. If you graduate and you have good grades. Our entire educational system, so think about it, a person who goes to grammar school, high school, and then if they have 4 years of college, have somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 years of being asked questions and knowing that they need to give a proper answer. So when you are asking questions in your sales interaction, in your during your opportunity presentation or your opportunity meeting or your meeting to talk to them about your product or service, asking questions is really critical because the person who is asking the questions is always the person who's in control. If you ever want to get control of the conversation and be a good listener, you have to stop whatever's going on in, for example, if you're vomiting a lot, if you're puking on the customer, if you're talking too much, you can stop yourself by saying, hey, listen, I have a tendency to talk too much when I start discussing this because I'm kind of excited. Can I ask you a question? The prospect will always say, sure, and you've got control. Sometimes I'll say, can I ask you a question? And I don't even know what the question is going to be, but I just need to get on track to asking them questions so they'll be giving me information. Remember that as a good listener, your job is to get information, not to give it. If you're listening, you're getting information. You're finding out what's important to your client, your prospect. If you're talking, you're not getting information from them. And the way you stop that is you say, can I ask you a question? Almost every single person in this country will say, of course, because they're so used to answering questions. And giving the right answers, by the way. There's something even more powerful than that, and it happened to me years ago it was actually in a Perkins restaurant in Lenexa, Kansas. And I was sitting there with a client of mine. I was in Perkins, we were having something to eat, and I heard an interaction behind me as a couple came into the booth, and there was a little girl, cutest little thing, about 4 years old, got into the booth with her parents, and the waitress comes over, and she says to the little girl, she says, how old are you, honey? Because it was Kansas. And the little girl, what did the little girl do? Well, those of you who have kids know what she did. She was a little shy. She kind of put her head under her mother's arm, and she wouldn't answer the question because she was shy and she was a little embarrassed that the waitress had focused in on her. Now, if you're a parent, if you've ever had kids, you know that parent said something to that child. What did I hear that mother say to that child? That mother said, answer the nice waitress's question, honey. And out from under the mother's arm, we heard, 4. Cutest little thing. But you have to understand that not only were you trained for 8, 12, 16, if you went to grad school for up to somewhere in the neighborhood of 19 years to answer questions and answer them correctly. Also, your parents taught you that if someone asked you a question, that you answered it, and you answered it how? You answered it correctly, you answered it honestly, and you answered politely. And we're taught as young children, your uncle asked you a question, Johnny, give him the answer. Tell him the answer, and answer politely. So we're all taught to answer questions and be very polite. And so understand that when you are saying to someone, can I ask you a question? They hear their mother in their head saying, answer the nice salesperson's question. Answer the nice network marketer's question. They don't know that they hear that, but that's what they hear. So if you want to open up a conversation, if you want to, and that's why I suggest that you always have an opening question ready, because you don't want to falter there. If they try to take control of the conversation, or if you're taking control of the conversation, that's fine. What you want to say, wherever the conversation goes, you can say, I'm happy to talk to you about this, or I'm really happy that you wanted to meet with me. Thank you. I appreciate it. Taking the time to come here to Starbucks or to come to my home or letting me come to your home. I really appreciate it. Always thank the prospect. Always thank them for agreeing to meet with you, to talk with you. They responded to your invitation to meet with them. Very, very cool. Thank them and appreciate it. And then say, can I ask you a question? They will almost always say sure. And then you want to have your opening question. Typically, I would craft a question that relates to your product or service. So you might say something like, hey, great, listen, you probably don't know this about me, or maybe you do, but I have a business other than being an attorney, other than being a teacher. I have another business that I'm doing that helps people to lose weight, get in shape, and feel better. Did you know that about me? No, I didn't. Yes, somebody told me something about it. Great. Hey, listen, I wanted to ask you, the question I have for you, Bob, is do you have any goals as it relates to losing weight, getting in great shape, feeling better, having more energy? Do you it's the beginning of the year, or it's halfway through the year? Do you have some kind of a goal? Did you set a New Year's resolution this year to get in better shape? I know a lot of people do. Do you have one? This will start to get the prospect talking. So you always want to have your opening question, because your opening question is designed to get someone talking to you. Again, we want to avoid being in a position where you're talking, giving information, presenting. And if you know what your opening question is going to be, then, and literally, you should practice it, you should know it. For years, I would go into a sales call, would have the bonding and rapport, would hit the pregnant pause, and then would typically take control and say, listen, thank you for inviting me in. I really appreciate you inviting me in to talk about what our company does as far as sales training, helping you to increase your sales. As you look at your sales force, and you mentioned to me that you have 8 salespeople, is there any particular situation, any particular problem, any issue that you have with your salespeople as it relates to selling, making a profit, developing any kind of, developing sales? Any issues around in your sales department that you're aware of or that you're concerned about? This was my opening question. As you look at your sales force, are there any issues that you have around selling? And this would get the prospect to start talking, because almost always the prospect would give me some version of, okay, so I let you come in here for an appointment to talk with me. What do you have? Show me what you've got. Many times prospects will prompt you to present. And this is why you really need to be a ninja at asking questions and have really great listening skills, because you're going to need to be able, as a very good and effective network marketer, you've got to learn how to steer conversations. You have to steer them in such a way that you're in control, and yet the prospect feels like they're in control. That's a very important thing that I just said. As a matter of fact, I just made it up, and it's really awesome. So you absolutely want to be good at controlling conversations, but at the same time, letting the prospect feel like they're in control. And the prospect will feel that they're in control if you're asking questions and they're talking about, like in the Dale Carnegie example, they're talking about something that they love to talk about, something that they're very selfishly wired about, something that they're very I-centered about, which is them. So whenever you've got someone talking, then you're doing a great job. I know that I'm having a great sales call when they're talking and I'm listening. If the prospect is talking 80% of the time and I'm talking 20% of the time, that I know it's a good sales call. In most cases, however, if I was to take a video camera and I was to videotape your presentations with people, we would see that the exact reverse. We'd see you talking 80% of the time and the prospect only talking 20% of the time. You've got to flip that. And the way that you flip that is you have an opening question. Because your job, just like any good therapist, like any good psychiatrist, like any good doctor, your job is to get your prospect talking. The more you can get them talking, the more information that you can get, you'll be able to better craft a customer-designed presentation. Critical, critical, critical. Have an opening question. Other examples of opening questions. Hey, thanks for agreeing to meet with me. I really appreciate you taking the time. This will only take about 20 minutes. You may not know that that I have another business other than being a doctor. I also have a financial services business. Did you know that about me? No, I didn't know that about you. Or yes, I did. Great. Listen, when I talk to someone like yourself, I usually find that when it comes to saving money, investing, saving for retirement, protecting themselves with the right amount of insurance protection. I'm wondering if you have any goals as it relates to saving money, creating wealth, protecting your family. Do you have a plan? Does that ring any bells for you? Have you thought about that at all? And now we want to get them talking to us. Well, yes, I've already talked to someone about insurance. Or, no, I've been meaning to start saving more money, but I just never seem to get around to it. And we want to, so you want to always have that opening question that gets the person talking about the subject that you want to talk to them about. So depending on what your network marketing business is involved in, depending on what your products or your services that you provide, you want to craft that question. Typically, I like something that says, in the positive, that says, do you have any goals as it relates to this? For example, you might just talk straight about your opportunity. Certainly many network marketing opportunities offer a great plan B. So you might say something like, thank you so much for agreeing to meet with me. I really appreciate it. As it relates to making money, as it relates to saving for the future, do you have any goals as it relates to the idea of building wealth or saving for retirement? Have you ever given any thought to developing an extra income in order to get many of the things that you want? Have you ever considered having a backup plan to your job or your career? And then you want to be open and ready to listen to and get them talking. Now, in many cases, you may not get what you really need at that point, but that's okay, because we need to get some forward momentum. We need to get them talking to us rather than them saying, okay, you brought me here, or you came to my house, now what do you want to show me? What's going on? Dump it. All right, let's come on, present to me. Go ahead. What do you? Some version of, okay, what do you got? Or get up on the table and dance. Go ahead. I'm here to see your show. Go ahead and do it. You want to avoid that situation by taking control, by asking a good opening question. Have you ever thought about this? Do you have any goals as it relates to this? Has it ever concerned you to feel like this or to be heading in this direction? Have you thought about a plan B or some version of that? Work with your upline sponsor. I guarantee you that your upline sponsor will have a great opening question for you to start any kind of interaction with anyone as you're talking about your opportunity or your products.